So last week, I went to the Eastern Oregon Film Festival in La Grande, Oregon. It was celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, and the thing I like about attending these smaller festivals is that you get a little more one-on-one time with the filmmakers if they decided to attend. Sure, the offerings won't be as exclusive or explosive as those at the big hitters like Sundance or TIFF, but these types of festivals provide a space for very small creators to showcase their work. That is what I am aiming to showcase here every year. Who are you?
My name's Chris.
Chris? What do you do here?
Oh, I live here. I attend the festival every year because I like it, and I help make it come to pass every year. Also, part of the staff.
Okay. Me and my college buddy went this year, and while we didn't catch all of the features, we did manage to see 8 of them. So strap in, and let's talk about movies.
That's what I'm talking about.
This was the first film we saw opening night of the festival, and it was interesting. Essentially what this documentary is aiming for is to talk about roller pigeons, a species of pigeons who can roll in the air, that are trained by bird brains. Yes, that is what they call themselves, for competitions all over the globe. This documentary was a fascinating watch with moments of comedy. While some of the cinematography was standard, there were some shots that were really well captured. The people the documentary chooses to focus on were interesting to watch, one of them being an up-and-comer in the sport, and this is a picture of me and him together. I thought that was pretty cool. He was a great sport in the film, and is dope in real life. At times, it is funny because the subjects were fun to listen to. All in all, a fun film that won one of 2 audience awards.
There were no digital cell phones. There was no World Wide Web. We're going to create what comes after the personal computer.
The first film we saw on the second day of the festival was the documentary General Magic. What this documentary aims to show is the company General Magic, a failed tech upstart in the late 80s, early 90s that paved the way for other companies making the tech we take for granted today, like smartphones and tablets, even certain softwares and websites we regularly visit. This is an interesting documentary that was cool to watch. While I will say the film could have cut 5 to 10 minutes from the running time to make the pacing better, the overall product had a historical insight that I was all for exploring. If you love technology, this may be the one for you, but on a general note, the film can seem bland at times. But the overall message communicated at the end was worth watching, essentially saying, hey, even though we like to get things right the first time, maybe it wasn't our time for that yet, and maybe since this thing didn't happen, maybe something good is around the corner for you because no one gets lightning in the bottle the first time around. That is a pretty good message to be sending to people looking to get into any industry, really. The second film we watched on that day was a film called Leave the Bus Through the Broken Window. I'd hesitate to call this a documentary as it isn't a very conventional one. The backstory for this film was that a filmmaker was originally going to make a documentary on the art scene in Hong Kong, but found when he returned home that he didn't really have much to go off of for a feature-length film, so instead they made the documentary about his journey into the world and the experiences he had in Hong Kong, especially in the art scene. Instead of a basic documentary, it becomes kind of a big autobiographical documentary akin to behind-the-scenes documentaries. What I found especially interesting with this was the voiceover. It's text-to-speech, but at times it got me and the rest of the audience to laugh. And one thought I had with the voiceover was how it fits with the film. Because if the subject is there to study art, I thought the voiceover was like getting a headphone-guided tour of an art museum, or in this case, a journey in Hong Kong from an American perspective. There are times when the film is fun to watch, and while the quality of the footage isn't too great, it's left a sort of travel vlog feel that I appreciate. It is definitely an experimental piece of documentary filmmaking.
But if we start tinkering with the brain, we start changing it, are we about to fundamentally change what it means to be human? And if so, are we okay with that?
The last film we watched on day 2 was I Am Human, and I thought this was the best film of the festival. This documentary is about bioengineering. Essentially, it follows 3 different people with various mental blockers and how technology is being used to help them. There is a woman with Parkinson's, a guy who lost eyesight in his adulthood, and a tetraplegic. All 3 of these people are getting implants to help with their conditions. This is one of the most well thought out documentaries I saw this year. It may be one of the best documentaries of the year. This is a timely documentary, as we are currently having a discussion of how technology can help us in the long run, and the film itself overall paints a positive picture of how we could use technology for medical reasons. Of course, the film showcased the opposition and provides questions on things like who would own the patent for the product, what can be considered dangers of this new technology. In an odd way, this is a documentary equivalent to something like Black Mirror, but instead of things being negative, things are overly positive. There was some considerable risk taken during the production as well, one involving a camera being inside of a surgery room while the person was getting brain surgery. One of the directors even said the subject had a lot of faith in the team to keep her alive, because during a brain surgery, if even one piece of dust on the brain is left there, it's considered a surgery failure. If one piece of dust was left on the camera and then made it to the subject could have died. And at times, this film got me a little bit emotional as to how things ended up so far for these new experimental technologies. I'm excited to see where these two directors go from here. On the last day of the festival, we started our screenings with a documentary from India called Pariah Dog. I feel like this is a film that can be used by PETA or ASPCA in the fact that the film follows various groups of people that are trying to help stray dogs as the government is not doing anything to help them. I am a dog lover, and this really got under my skin. It was, at times, a sad experience because you see dead dogs on the streets, and it is an effective piece of activist documentary. Each of the people we focus on have their own ways of being an activist. One writes a song to promote helping dogs, one creates a sanctuary for stray dogs, and another actively goes out and speaks about the governmental failures of India. This is an effective piece of film, and at times it probably could have been cut down a little bit, but I still nonetheless had some enjoyment with it.
People are coming tomorrow. To a bloodbath.
The second film we watched on the last day was a horror comedy called Camp Wedding. As soon as I saw the trailer for this film, I knew there would be some fun with it. Essentially, the film follows a group of people as they go to a summer camp to have a wedding. Kind of an odd setup, but we'll go with it. But horrifying things happen when a mysterious force starts taking them out one by one and posting pictures of them on social media. And the shocking revelation comes from an unexpected source. I thought the film was a fun, schlocky kind of film. It wasn't trying to go and take itself very seriously, and that's kind of part of the charm of the film. It obviously isn't a good movie or a great movie, but I will give credit where credit is due. The cinematography was good at times, some of the acting was very over the top, but nonetheless entertaining and purposeful. The setup and payoff was fun to witness. However, I feel like some of the jokes are a bit much as they revisit some of the same jokes over and over again, and it just compounds upon itself. It even has an interesting horror villain in the film, but what I found distracting was partially how over the top it was. Some of the VFX was very low budget, and the end result was a bit goofy, but I guess that's what they were kind of going for. But I will say it's a pretty hilarious film, whether it was aiming for it or not. The third film we watched on the last day was the romantic drama Clementine. It follows a woman who had just left a relationship and escapes to a cabin in the woods and comes across a woman who over time falls in love for, which leads to a shocking and somewhat controversial ending. What I admire about this film is how honest it feels about its intentions. The actor who plays the woman the main character meets was a standout. She essentially plays a girl who wants to be an actress, and she does it so well that she bamboozles the main character as well as the audience. I feel like the revelation at the end, though, was added for shock value partially. And if you don't mind spoilers, stay for a bit. If not, skip to here. The ending shows that the actor girl had filmed some pornography for some men and was assaulted by them. But once the main character goes and grabs the tape, she finds out that the girl she was infatuated with for so long in the film was actually a little teenager. It is at this point that things really got serious for me, as the main character had at that point child pornography. I will admit this is a crazy little ending, expecting the audience to buy the relationship at first and then it pulls out the carpet from underneath our feet. The ultimate ending at first really confused me. Like, if you had some child pornography, why not turn it into the police? But then I thought about it, and it made sense in the end that she just destroys the tape and doesn't mention it ever again. In the long run, I felt the film was executed well, the cinematography was fine, the music was good to listen to, and the performances were earnest.
They're gonna kill all of them, and they need some people to pull the trigger.
And now we come to the last and most controversial film of the festival, Empty Metal. When I saw the trailer, I thought it would be a so bad it's good kind of film, kind of like The Room or Samurai Cop, and based off of the walkouts that were happening opening night, I didn't really give my hopes up. But no, Empty Metal is a plainly bad film. While I admire the balls the film took to basically ask the audience to follow a bunch of terrorists and to dissect how terrorists are radicalized, they don't really do it very well. They make it so cringy and nonsensical. There's this Native American mob that uses some sort of psychic link, which isn't explored much at all as to how they are able to do this, and really only serves to be the only way to communicate outside of the governmental eyes, and also perpetuates the plot forward because there really isn't no other way to do it. The main characters is a bunch of failing punk rock band people that are approached by these Native American mob bosses to kill 3 cops who shot unarmed people, but at no point is there any sort of introspection on this. There isn't even a full-on debate on whether they should go through with this or not. And what really is confusing is there isn't much forcing them to do it either. They just go with it because the script says they should go with it. But the best way to describe these kinds of people is that they are these kinds of people.
California.
That law only applies to U.S. citizens.
Well, where are you a citizen of?
I am not a U.S. citizen.
Well, see,
I am a free inhabitant. I am of the earth. I do not belong to any corporation. I do not belong to any country.
Yeah, but as
no.
long as you're in the sovereign states of the United States, you will abide by the rules and laws.
See,
and you have certain protections.
a free inhabitant is they are allowed to. They're free people. They have all of the rights of a U.S. citizen without following any of their laws.
The performances were lackluster in this film with almost no energy behind them, like I was just watching a high school production of Grease or something. This was pretty much the worst film of the festival, and people say that Joker was controversial, that it could inspire violence. I would actually argue that Empty Metal is worse, since there is no opposition that is portrayed. It is completely black and white. At least in Joker, we had Murray playing the opposite ideology. In Empty Metal, there really isn't any, and it becomes too real at times that it is almost like the filmmaker really wants people to start a war with everyone. The film is empty and hollow, poorly timed, and poorly portrayed. Definitely the worst of the festival. Thank you so much for listening into the recap of the Eastern Oregon Film Festival. I hope to go back there next year. Hopefully we'll find some interesting films again. And be sure to follow, like, subscribe, comment, whatever. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.